Hey, what's up, guys? Little man with a big opinion here. As I'm driving home from my spring break, it's really enjoyable to discuss the things that are going on in the world and, have a group conversation on how to deal with problems. Sometimes the things that you think might not be the best solution to something, or maybe your idea is a half decent idea and those around you can refine it, shape that wheel a little bit smoother, make the ride go better. So me and my buddies, we go to the lake house every year for 4 or 5 days for spring break. We hang out, have a grand old time, and for the most part, we are very similar thinking people. This is going to be another video about setting up a MAG, or a mutual assistance group. Discussing with my friends, we had a couple of people that have fallen out, aren't involved in this little tradition of ours, and we've added new people to said tradition. And we've discussed what needs to happen, and I gave my pitch to a few of them. I got a couple of them to subscribe to the channel, so we'll see if they want to continue to hear what I discuss about. But one thing that every single one of us agreed on was being able to take care of yourself, because we're going to this lake house. The closest person that lives to it is about 45 minutes away, and I'm the furthest at 3 hours. And I brought up the fact that I've been taking a bunch of the FEMA courses, and FEMA recommends 72 hours. And I think most of them understand that you should really be at that 2-week base point to put yourself in a better position than the rest of the United States. If you have 2 weeks worth of food, you are doing better than, I would say, 90% of Americans. And I don't know an exact statistic on that, but I do remember at some point they said 2/3 of Americans don't have $500 for an emergency. I had an emergency on this trip. The car that I'm driving, the battery died in it. I had to go drop $170 to get a new battery. I would consider that an emergency. So, and a few of them are still in college, and they've subscribed to that mindset of, having things ready for a rainy day. The youngest person in our group, I asked if he could jump my car last night, and he said, you're just gonna go get a new battery tomorrow. And I was telling him, from a trouble pointing standpoint, if I can jump the car tonight, let the alternator charge it up. If it turns on in the morning, then maybe I left the light on, or I can at least get home, kind of thing. But if we jump it last night and it doesn't start, or it jumped last night but we tried turning it on in the morning, then it means a dead battery. I don't think anyone's crazy enough to keep a spare battery in their vehicle 24/7, for that sort of problem. I've kind of told myself, I know when this battery was purchased, so when we get within the last year of its life, if we're saving like $4 a month, then we can go out and purchase a new battery and just keep it on hand at the house. That way we're not worrying about that few $100 purchase. But that's level of preparedness. We were discussing the things that are kept in your vehicle, and one of the guys, he works in an office, but he keeps enough tools in his vehicle that he can solve most auto maintenance issues that don't require going to a shop that have specialized tools. I just keep an 88 piece set that could do just about everything, but the idea of having the tools to handle those sort of problems, I think everyone should have that in their vehicle. And there were those that didn't, that the discussion was, hey, we're going to spend the 30 or 40 bucks and keep this in the the tire well, or put it in a position that's not gonna just fill your car up. And we talked about EDC, and we talked about business plans that we have, and just to a certain degree what we were doing was we were also what's the word when a bunch of people get we were networking, because one of the buddies really wants to start a company, and I was explaining our freeze-dried candy business and the business model that we went with, and we kind of he's got a great business plan, and he's fairly close to acting on it, and we're getting set up where we're just about ready to invest, because he hasn't been a lifelong friend of mine, but I've at least the last 5 years I would put him in the category of a problem happens, I can call him, and unless he is dealing with something extremely important, he's going to drop everything and come help solve the problem. And that's the way nearly everyone in this group works. I'm not going to count my buddy's little brother that is finishing high school this year, because he's not quite there yet. But having the mag, I think he is in a much better position to set his life up, because this was his first year hanging out with us. But the oldest person is turning 30 this year. I'm 26. We've got a couple of 25-year-olds sprinkled in, 22 and a 23-year-old, and then his little brother's getting involved, and explaining all these different things. I think the biggest thing that our mag is beneficial for right now is everyone in the group is bettering themselves physically. I talked a lot about being overweight, and how I went from being overweight from the BMI standard to being in the athlete standard. And we've had some people that have gotten injured, and so they've kind of let themselves go, and they have openly said, I have this issue. And we've got one person that's underweight, and we spent time working on a workout split and talking about micros and macros. And I wouldn't say it's on a daily basis, but at least on a weekly basis, we're showing how much we weigh, how much we're lifting, how fast we're doing a mile. It's something that is, it's not free. People say, working on your physical health is like one of the free preps that you can do. Depending on who you are, you're going to spend money to eat healthier, and it's going to cost more than what you were eating. Or if you're trying to add weight, you're going to spend more money on, proteins and stuff like that. And, not all of us do body weight workouts, so we're spending money on, workout equipment and stuff like that. But we're all holding each other accountable, and results are happening. One of the guys in our group so far for 2024 has lost 20 pounds. I'm down 6.5 pounds. The guy that's underweight has gained 2 pounds. And when we hit these success points, we congratulate each other. We celebrate, because it's a good thing to do, and that's what having this group is beneficial. Because if you're trying to go at this alone, like just for this one category, it can be extremely difficult. You are your own integrity, and it can be very easy to let things slide. And it's not just that. We talked about firearms. One of the guys in our group doesn't own any guns. He's 25. He's shot guns before. He enjoys that kind of stuff. And I carry everywhere that I can carry. And explaining to him the handgun I have, why I picked it, discussing, if you're going to buy one, then, the two mindsets is you get something that's, like an entry level, spending, $300 to $500 on a handgun, and training with it and getting very proficient, and then purchasing something else so that one now becomes your backup. Or you can go a different route, the idea of buy once, cry once, and you get the top-notch thing and train with that. And based off this weekend, he's anticipating purchasing a handgun soon. And it was my input with the 4 or 5 other people that have handguns and carry or shoot regularly. So, your mag should definitely cover, food, water, safety, shelter, security. And then like the subcategories that, have importance, but they're kind of like a step below, comms, first aid, entertainment, education, all of it's important. I really discussed my prepping budget, which I won't have a March prepping budget video where I spend $100 because I bought a car battery. That's my prepping purchase. And I mean, you can argue, the tax return, bought the handgun, but I already made a video talking about that. But, telling them and like showing the breakdown of, where my money goes. And, there are people in the group that make less than me. There are people in the group that make more than me. And seeing that just about every single category, the only one I can't lock down is fuel prices, because it changes so damn much. But just about everything else, I know roughly what it's going to cost. And, explaining that I've been doing this since I got into college, and, what has come of it. A lot more of them are, setting up budgets. We've got one guy in the group that is really, really into preparing food. I mean, makes darn near everything from scratch, seasons it amazing. And, we pointed that out as an asset because, depending on the food supplies that you have, there's a very good possibility that he's going to keep us sane. I hadn't even brought up the idea of entertainment, but one of the guys was like, well, I have like 10 board games, and Boots, you've got like 9. And then we all started talking about all the board games we have, and we came to the conclusion that we'd like to buy more because people are constantly making new games. But it was kind of rainy, and we didn't really go out to the pool or fish much. We spent a lot of time inside. We played a ton of board games. We played Magic, and the general conclusion was, well, if shit hits the fan and we lose electricity and we can't play our 2K or Fortnite or whatever, I don't think we're going to get bored. And the group was like, yeah, you're right. And everyone kind of made a comment saying, like, next spring break we should each bring a new board game to try out and play. Although most of us said we'd have something new, because most of the people in this group, we all work at a Boy Scout summer camp. We'll bring that out for while we're working over the summer and play those games. We talked about going to a range, putting some time in there. Me and one other person that have our wilderness first aid, we talked about needing to get a research done on that and other things that we can do to kind of, it was lots of discussing, lots of good ideas were had, lots of planning and goals were set, and having that group makes us stronger as a group. If we were all trying to go at this alone, we would probably it's the whole united we stand, divided we fall. We could all safely say we might last a little bit, but if it's just us against the world, then the world's probably going to win. So I guess my message for you is a simple one. If you're handling the prepping by yourself, keep prepping, because it's better to prep by yourself than be by yourself and not prep at all. But you really should get your family involved. You should get your friends involved. Even if you don't want the person to be in your mutual assistance group. You're kind of dancing back and forth on the line of operational security and people knowing that you prep, and just trying to give people good advice, but letting them know, like, it could be as simple as, like, I've told people all the time, I lived in Corpus Christi during the big freeze and I had no power for 5 days, but I was in Scouts and I do a lot of camping, so I pulled out my Coleman stove and my Mountain House meals that I take camping with me, because I buy them in bulk because it's cheaper. And we were eating on those when a lot of the store shelves were empty, and someone was like, what are Mountain House meals? And I explained why I buy them in bulk, because the science says they'll last indefinitely as long as the oxygen absorber and the bag isn't compromised. So I didn't remember the dates, but I know some of those meals I was eating that were 6 or 7 years old. And I also threw in the idea of inflation, saying that some of these I purchased when they were $7.99, and at that time I think they might have been $9.99. So I was also saving myself $2, not having to go to Walmart and buy more when the freeze was happening. And that got their brain turning and like put that very small prepper spark in them that a few years later they came to me talking about prepping and asking if I wanted to join a group and stuff. And that's kind of when I spilled the beans, saying, when I talked to you in the past, I was already prepping. I just didn't make it seem like I was. And we still talk. He lives in Corpus Christi, and I live 9 hours from there. So the possibility of us being able to meet up and rule the wasteland are kind of slim. So build a community, build that system that it turns into a safety net. If you fall down, you're not worrying about, like, you're not just worrying about, I have to get myself back up. You're getting yourself up, but you also have, a hand reaching out to help you get back up. And, on that same idea, I'm a teacher. I do a lot of stuff outdoors and stuff like that. I do not have the time or the money to go to medical school or take all the courses to be a mechanic or be an amazing gardener. I plant trees because it's really hard to kill a tree. And we do some gardening stuff. But, the different people in your groups, they might have already spent the time and money to develop a skill that they are much, much better at than you, or you have no skill in it. And so, that's widening that safety net of, covering all your bases when it's time to cover your bases. But with that being said, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like. If you have questions or comments, things that you'd like to add, you can leave in the comment section down below. And if you have a friend or family member that would benefit from these discussions or any of the other videos that I've made, share the channel with them. And with that, catch you in the next one.